Hello everybody, welcome to The Barn where we party hard but hustle harder. In today's episode of Book Club, we're not really going over a book as I've already analyzed two heavy texts such as The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Rich Dad Poor Dad, which you can find on my channel after you watch this video. But today's video, I want to try something different. So I've gone into the mythology of ancient Asian culture to get you some Zen stories from India, Japan, China, all Middle Eastern countries, and I've found a list of 5 stories that I want to go over with you guys. If we don't have time and you enjoyed this video, we'll cover them on another video as I'm literally just experimenting. But without wasting much time, the first story I want to tell you originates from India. What happened is there was a king, and now this king was polishing his knife and accidentally cut his toe. In the process, his minister came and saw, and he replied with one sentence which he always likes to use: whatever happens, happens for good. The king got furious at the minister and sent him to get locked away in prison. He's like, what's the shame of this man? Me, I'm here getting pain and I've cut off my finger, and he's saying it's for the good. But even as he was going into the prison cell, the guard said his one famous line: whatever happens, happens for good. The next day, the king went into the jungle, and in the jungle, a group of indigenous tribe members captured him, and they were taking him to get sacrificed. Before they sacrificed him, the village elder saw that the king was missing one finger and said, "We can now not offer this king to the gods as he's incomplete. We wouldn't get the good luck we want." And they let him go. The king was astonished that him actually cutting his finger was for the good. So now he went back into his palace and brought back his minister, explained the story to him, and asked the minister, "Really, how did you know everything happens for good?" The minister said, "It's the way it always has to be." Then the king replied to that, "If it's always meant to be, what good happened of you getting arrested? You were mistreated, you were beaten in the prison cell. What good possibly came out of that?" The minister replied, "When I'm not in jail, I'm always roaming with you. So if we were caught together in the forest, they would have surely sacrificed me. So whatever happens is for good." What the moral of this story is very simple. Things are neither good or bad. It's your perspective on them. You can decide whether to look at everything as glass half full or half empty. Your reaction to situation is entirely up to you. You can decide to look at everything that happens to you as either a blessing or a lesson, or be pessimistic and question it, but that's not going to change things from happening to you. Story number 2 comes from ancient China and is called the story of the 4 monks. Now what happened is 4 monks decided to go to the mountainside one night and all meditate to a candle. And they decided that they would stay in silence the entire night without speaking a single word and just observe the candle. Now, when they were on the top of the mountainside, of course because it's windy over there, the candle started getting washed away by the wind. Suddenly, the first monk broke his vow of silence and exclaimed that, "Oh no, the fire is going to go out." The second monk became angry with this and asked him, "We were meant to be quiet. Why are you making noise?" The third monk, as a result, said, "You both have broken your noise. Why are you getting distracted?" The fourth monk became very proud and was like, "You guys have all broken your vow of silence, but look at me. I managed to survive longer than you guys." But in the process, all 4 broke their vows. And their only objective for the night was to look at the candle. Number 1 was so afraid of the future, he ended up breaking his vow in the present. Number 2 became angry. Number 3 also became angry. And number 4 was succumbed with pride. As a result, the moral of this story is to tell you guys that in life, whatever situation you can't control, leave it. But you cannot stop following your duty, as in the process, you'll end up getting nothing done. Bad things will happen to you, good things will happen to you, as even mentioned in story 1. but one thing you have to stay truthful to is your duty. That night, none of the monks were able to keep their vow of silence despite climbing an entire mountain and taking a vow to do so. Learning from this story, you stop making meaningless decisions that will affect the progress of you for tomorrow for short-term gratification, which is what the Ban is all about. For story number 3, we take a trip to ancient Japan. Now, there was a famous philosopher called Hawking. And one day, a samurai warrior approached him and asked him, "Is there anything such as heaven and hell?" To that, the Hawking smiled and laughed at him and replied, "Are you a soldier? Your face looks like that of a beggar," and continued laughing. Enraged, the samurai warrior started to draw out his sword. Hawking replied to that action by saying, "Is that even a blade? It's not even sharp to cut a twig. What will it do to my head?" Enraged, the samurai drew out his entire sword, about to hit Hawking. Hawking told him to pause and said, "In that moment, you were fueled by anger and rage, and you had no control over your emotions. In that moment, you're in hell." The samurai, became astonished by this, dropped his sword and fell to his knees, humbled by Hawking. As a result, Hawking said, "Now you have become humble, you're willing to learn, you've calmed yourself down. This is where heaven is." The message of this story is, in religious text, we've come up with a misconception that heaven and hell exist outside this realm. It's a magical place in the sky. But no, it's actually all in your mind. You can decide to be in heaven and hell right here on earth. We have no proof to know where we're going after we die. But the one place you know you'll be certain to stay until that moment is here on earth. So you have to decide. Do you want to become fueled by anger and hatred and live in a realm of hell? Or become a productive member of society who tries to solve problems in the heaven this beautiful and magical planet was built to be? For story number 4, we go back to ancient Bangladesh. The story is an ancient folktale where a man is very depressed, he feels his life is full of problems and is about to take his life. But before he does so, he goes and consults a monk. So he goes and explains this to the monk. "My life is very sad, this is what I'm going through." And the monk doesn't reply with anything. He simply goes and comes back with a bowl of salt and a glass of water. He asks the man, "Take a handful of the salt and put it in the water and take a drink and tell me how it is." The man replies, "It's very bitter." The monk just smiles. Next, the monk takes the man to a river and tells him, "Take another handful of salt and put it in the river." The man does so. The monk then tells him, "Now take a drink of the water." The man takes a drink of the water and says, "Wow, that just tasted normal." To this the monk replied, "In life, your problems are the salt. There'll never be more or less. But the water is your perspective and your patience. How are you willing to wait on your problems to naturally flow away? And how are you able to broaden your perspective instead of just considering your potential as a glass of water? Let it be a flawless river. And by doing so, making your chakras align and let your soul flow naturally, you're able to deal with the same problem in a much more effective way. Also, as the water flows away, it takes time, which refers to the patience he was trying to explain." This story is very self-explanatory, so we go straight to story number 5. Guys, I really hope you're enjoying this episode of Book Club. If you reached the video thusly, chances are you are, so please hit that like button. It literally takes a second of your time, but does so much for my channel. Anyways, without wasting much more time, story number 5. I don't know the origins of this story, but it's called the Beggar's Pot. So how the story is preset is there's a king and he's always wanting more and more wealth. Despite the fact he's taken over 8 kingdoms in his life, has accumulated tons of wealth, has 12 wives, tons of children, eats the best of food, but is always upset and wanting more money. Because an angel sees this, an angel disguises herself as a beggar and comes to the king's castle and says, "Oh dear king, please can you give me one thing?" The king looks at the beggar and always has made it a policy, the first person in the day who comes and asks him for something, because they're his loyal subjects, he'll adhere. So he tells the beggar, "Sure, whatever you want, if it's in my capacity, I'll give you." So the beggar has a small pot with him and asks the king, "Please just fill this pot with money." And the king thinks, "I have vaults of treasure, that's something so small. Surely I'll adhere to what your request. That's what, like a handful of coins for me. I have treasuries all over the country." And slowly he starts filling the beggar's pot. He starts filling the beggar's pot, starts filling it, and soon he notices he's cleared out his entire treasury, but the pot is not yet full. Slowly, he gets all the treasures from his entire kingdom to start slowly putting in the pot until he realizes that that pot was a magical pot. Soon, he's run out of all his wealth, but he was a noble king, so he kept his promise but told the beggar, "I told you I'll only meet your condition so as I have the capacity. I've put all my wealth into your pot, I surely have no more. Is this a magical pot?" Soon the beggar transforms himself back into the angel and explains to the king, "This is no magical pot, it's just a human skull. Because as humans, you always have ambition for more and more. And slowly your ambition never grows. You reach one milestone, you want more wealth, you want more wealth, you want more fame, you want more success, you want more money. But this ambition never ever dies. Constantly and constantly you're desiring more and more until you die, having realized you were always wanting more and more." And what the message of this story is very simple. Have gratitude. Where you are today, if you have a roof over your head, you have enough food, you have water to drink and a bed to sleep on, you have more than so many kids just here in Africa. Be grateful for that, as it's a big win for you. And know that if you keep on desiring more and more, your happiness will never be achieved, as there's always one more thing you can have. At a certain point you have to say, "I've achieved this much, I'm earning this much, I'm this much known in society," and that should be enough. Anyways guys, if you have any particular book you want me to go over for the future book club videos, or any short fables or stories that add value to people, let me know down below. As usual, if you want me to elaborate on any of the points, I promise I'll do so. But for now, that has to be a wrap. But I'm not going to leave you hanging. If you haven't watched my videos on the subtle art of not giving a fuck, or Rich Dad Poor Dad, they'll be on the end screen now, as you can wait for tomorrow's episode. Peace.